Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are someone, and I am someone else. And today, we are going to be talking about constitutions. That is right. I have the new Constitution of the USSR. The new Constitution of the USSR in my hands. Hold on. There's a sticker. I hate this sticker, but the new Constitution of the USSR. I also have the United States Constitution. I have the Canadian Constitution. I have the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution. I have, oh my god, the Magna Carta Constitution, the British Constitution. And I have the Constitution of the French Republic. Now, which one are we going to review first? See, I want to review the Soviet one first. Why is that? And why am I going to do the American one last? Because I want to try to understand how different people were living at a different time. Now, the Soviet Union no longer exists. This constitution was written back in 1977. Now, I don't know if this is the official constitution. Like, I think the appendix is. There are, I believe, 20 chapters, and then chapter 21 is an appendix chapter where it's actually the official amendments of the Constitution and stuff, or articles. So, I don't know whether or not this is an actual Constitution. I think it's more of an ideological book that the government wrote, and then they strapped on a Constitution at the end. So, I don't know whether to just review the whole thing or the appendix chapter Constitution thing. But I love the little details in this book. Hold on. Let me show you here. I got this right here. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics is a socialist state. It says it right there. But look, it's got a little star and everything. So it's kind of cool looking, and it's got little flags and everything. But yeah, I really want to. This book is absolutely fantastic. I gotta give Boris. Well, he died in 2005. I have to give Boris credit for this book. He was a English, very prolific English writer. He writes in British English in this book, so it's not. He puts little U's and stuff like that in this book. But absolutely have to give him credit for this book. It is incredible, and I think there's three other authors also that were also translating. I think they translated the mainly the stuff that the government wrote. Yeah, translated from the Russian by Morad Safi and Kostad Korstov. I think those are the English translators. But I believe Boris is the one who wrote it. And he actually died in Germany. He died in Germany in 2015. Printed in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So this is the English translation, apparently. And this was actually printed in the Soviet Union. That's what this book says. In 1980, by the way. So this book hasn't been touched for 50 years. And I bought it, and it is, I have to say, this is so beautiful looking. It's got gold and stuff. Boris's name's on it and stuff like that. I think Boris is the one who wrote it in Russian, and then there's two English translators. And then the French Republic, this is probably the weirdest constitution I'm going to be reviewing on this channel. Just because there is, I believe, 109 articles, and then like 20 of them have been banned, or like the government has gotten rid of them. So the Constitution's been smaller and smaller every single year, or every single time they've been amending it. And they don't like add more articles. They take away articles, so they give more and more power to the central government by doing that. And stuff like, I think so. I don't know. They're more centralized than they were when they started, I think, in some regard. Maybe they're more or less, I'm not 100% certain, but on that, they did get rid of Algeria in the Republic, so I don't know. Algeria was one of them. We are going to review, after France, we're going to review the British one. Why am I going to review the British one over my constitution, even though the British one's newer? Because the British one heavily inspired the U.S. Constitution, at least in the 1600s with their English Bill of Rights. And so I want to just talk about this because it's going to influence the next three on the list. So, again, this series is going to have 6 constitutions, Soviet, French, and then the British. And then we're going to talk mainly about the oldest one that was inspired by the British, the Canadian one. This is, well, technically the second one was inspired by the British, but because they're like a crown colony or a dominion, they were one of the dominions of the British. I want to talk about the Dominion constitutions, and the two ones I have are Canada and Australia. So Canada got theirs, I believe, in 1867, and so they always glorify their founding fathers. Uh, Australia, they don't really do that as much. They're not as like historical. They don't really, not as historical. They don't really glorify their founding fathers like they do with the Canadians. Canadians want to have like their own nation myth, like the Americans. So that's why they have like the founding fathers, and they're all like all about them and stuff. But yeah, this was written in 1900, this Constitution, and then of course, 1787, I believe, 87, our Constitution. And again, it's been amended so many times. It's been amended 27 times. And though it was last amended in 1995, so it's probably needs a few more amendments. Maybe I don't know. We shouldn't be amending it like crazy all the time. It's a slow acting constitution, so obviously it's going to be slow. But I wanted to review these because I wanted to learn a lens through history on what people believed when they were making governments. And that is really what this series is about, and these rants are going to be about. And I really want to tackle the Soviet one first, because the Soviet one, I disagree with the economic model that they use, because the other ones don't really talk about economics like this one does. They're ideologically, economically a powerhouse in a lot of ways. Like they defined what it means to be a socialist country, and so I want to tear down why socialism inherently leads to authoritarianism over time. Not always, but most of the time it does. Because, I mean, I think page 30 talks about, there's a quote in there, something about like, oh, the resources are for the people managed by the government. Well, what makes the government not abuse the people? You know what I mean? So that's kind of my argument with against this Constitution. Not saying that the Constitution is terrible or whatnot. There's probably great things about this Constitution. I love the little republics inside of it. There's 15 republics inside the Soviet Union. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or whatever the country's name is, right? There's 15 of them. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus. I forgot the other ones. It doesn't matter, right? Mostly Central Asian countries. This Constitution, I want to see if I can read it all the way through. I don't think I will. I'll probably just review the appendix chapter, because the appendix is the law. It says the law of the Soviet Union. That's the appendix chapter. And so I really want to sort of review the law mainly. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but it interests me. But I want to see if I can start a new series about, and I have one more. I don't know if we have time to do this, but if I ever had time, we could do The Constitution of Liberty by F.A. Hayek. Now, it's very hypothetical. I don't think that any constitution's ever been modeled off of The Constitution of Liberty by F.A. Hayek. But he does talk about how it's the closest to the American Constitution. He writes it, actually, the book is for Americans, even though he's a British author. Austrian British author. He's actually from Austria, immigrated to Austria, to the United Kingdom, sorry. Austrian, moved to the United Kingdom, then he moved to the United States for 5 years. He wasn't an American citizen, but a resident. He became a professor in the University of Chicago. Then he started writing law stuff, because he was actually a law. So when you're in Austria, in order to become an economist, you have to be a lawyer. And so he studied law, actually, was his main thing. But he was first an economist, then a lawyer. Then he went back to economics. So there's like a 3 stages of F.A. Hayek, and I'm kind of on the second stage. I'm reading most of the second stage stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of on that law stuff. I really love his law stuff. I actually like it more than his economic stuff. Surprisingly, I agree with his economic models a little bit, but there's some stuff I disagree with him on. But a lot of he's one of the best economists out there. His theories have held true even in today's market. But he can predict things like, if he was still alive, he probably could have predicted a lot of the crashes. But yeah, just absolutely fantastic. So if we have time, we'll go to his book as well. But it's so big. I've only gotten through like this much of it. It's not even. It's so big. I think it's like 600, 700 pages. and I've gotten through like 100 of it. It's just too big to be reviewing in the series, so we're probably just gonna stick to the 6 I have. I might decide to add more if I wanted to, but I'm not going to because this series is going to get too big anyway. I want to just critique each constitution as they go along. I like a mix of a. Here's what I like in a constitution. I like a mix, in terms of law anyway, a mix of autocracy and popularity or democracy, I guess we would call it. I do want a mix of both. The U.S. Constitution, at least the old one, which I really love. That the reason I like the old one is it mixed both of the autocracy and the popularity at the same time, right? The Soviet Union does the opposite. It sort of just controls every aspect of citizens' lives, and so citizens are kind of obligated to vote for the people who already control their lives. So in that, it's too much autocracy, and then the French, I feel like, is too much democracy. So, and I would argue that the British are starting to go way too far in democracy. So in that sense, I want to see, like, you need a little bit more order than what most constitutions are like. We don't want Soviet order, you know what I mean? We don't want like authoritarian order. But again, it was 1977. They weren't as authoritarian as they were in the 50s, let's just say. So, I mean, that's why I want to review it, because it's a late stage authoritarianism. I want to see what's different about the old style compared to the new style. You know what I mean? I don't have the old constitution, but if I did, I'm sure it would be very different. And I know that there's certain articles in there, like they had the right to succeed in the Soviet Union, which is why they enacted it in the 90s. So I want to see if I can find. I don't know. I don't know what my plan is with this series, but I think I'm going to read the appendix chapter, and then I'm going to read the main constitutions for each, and just like review them. Although the French one's going to take forever. I might just split it up into chapters for the French one, because the French one's the biggest out of all of them. I don't know. I'll think about it. The French one's confusing. But I've been reading into it more, and I'm actually starting to understand why they made it the way they did. But anyway, that's besides. You are someone and I'm someone else, and I'm going to start a new series. And I hope you guys like it.